I am the real daughter who was switched at birth. On the first day I was brought back to the wealthy family, the fake daughter, Guyao, splashed a bowl of scalding mushroom soup on me in front of everyone. The scalding liquid instantly soaked through my thin clothes, and the burning pain spread from my chest. Sister, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Her eyes were red, her voice trembling, as if she had suffered a great injustice. My so-called biological mother, Lin Lan, immediately shielded her behind her back and sternly scolded me. Yao Yao is not in good health. Can't you just be a little more considerate of her since you just got back? Look at you, you've scared Yao Yao. My own brother, Guyan, looked at me as if I were trash, his tone icy. Don't think that just because you're back, you can take Yao Yao's place. You'd better behave yourself. I lowered my head, looking at my cheap but clean clothes, now a mess from the spilled soup, the skin on my chest burning with pain. Not a single one of them cared whether I was scalded. I am merely an intruder who disrupted their perfect family. I clenched my fists, playing the role of the useless person they expected to see. Just then, a mechanical voice echoed in my mind. Ding, detected that the host is in a state of extreme frustration. The crow's mouth system has been successfully bound. Newbie mission. Speak your blessings to them, and let them reap what they sow. I raised my head, my gaze falling on Lin Lan, who was shielding Guyao. She was wearing an expensive haute couture gown, with exquisite makeup, ready to attend the charity gala that evening. I timidly spoke, my voice trembling slightly from restraint. Mom, please don't trip at the banquet tonight, otherwise, such a beautiful dress will be ruined. Lin Lan let out a scornful laugh, as if she had heard the biggest joke in the world, her well-maintained face quickly filling with impatience. Jinx, get back to your room right now, and stop being an eyesore here. After she finished speaking, she gracefully linked arms with my father, Gu Jinghai, and together with Guyao and Guyen, the harmonious family of four walked out the door. Their glamorous backs looked like that of a complete and happy family, while I was the mistake that had been forced in. The maid, with a stern face, led me to the servants' room in the farthest corner of the second floor. The room was cramped, with a musty smell of mildew in the air, containing only a single bed and an old, peeling wardrobe. Miss Lin has instructed that you will live here from now on, she informed me in a businesslike tone, her eyes devoid of any warmth. You are not allowed to go downstairs without permission. I remained silent, quietly closing the door, cutting off the sound of her departing footsteps. The small, old television in the room was the only electrical appliance here. I turned it on. After a flicker of static, the screen jumped to the local channel's live broadcast of a banquet. In the frame, Lin Lan was holding a champagne glass, laughing and chatting gracefully among a group of glamorous, bejeweled noblewomen. The smile on her face was a gentleness I had never seen before. I watched silently, my heart unperturbed. Suddenly, the expensive handmade rug beneath her feet curled up at the edge without warning, catching the heel of her 7-centimeter stiletto. Ah, a short, sharp scream echoed through the entire banquet hall. One moment, Lin Lan was as graceful as a swan. The next, she landed face first on the ground in an utterly comical posture. A dull thud echoed, painful just to hear. The red wine glass flew from her hand, its dark red liquid tracing an arc through the air before splashing squarely onto her meticulously made-up face, the wine mixed with foundation, streaming down her cheeks in a pitiful mess. The live stream chat instantly flooded the entire screen. Damn, a trip and fall on flat ground, and face first. Is this lady here for comedy? Haha, sorry. I laugh like a pig. Is this the best live stream accident of the year? Is that red wine or blood on her face? Her makeup is all smeared. She looks like she just ran off a horror movie set. Isn't this Mrs. Gu from the Gu group? Did you forget to check the almanac before going out today? Gu Jinghai and Gu Yan's expressions changed drastically as they rushed over in a flurry to help her up. Gu Ya then considerately crouched down, pretending to help straighten her disheveled skirt, her face wearing a pitiful expression that was perfectly acted. Watching her good sister act on the screen, I curled the corner of my mouth slightly and blessed her in a voice only I could hear. Yao Yao is truly a kind and good sister. You must be careful not to sprain your ankle. You dance so beautifully, and next month you'll be performing the opening dance for my brother's concert. As soon as the words were spoken, in the live broadcast, just as Guya was about to stand up, a startlingly crisp crack sound came from her ankle. Ah, her expression instantly froze, then twisted with immense pain. A scream tore from her throat as she fell to the ground, clutching her ankle and wailing loudly. In the banquet hall, one person had landed face first, while another sat on the floor, crying in agony. My dear father and brother were completely dumbfounded, standing in the middle, momentarily unsure which one to attend to first. I turned off the TV, and the room fell back into silence. Great, I can finally get a good night's sleep tonight. The entire banquet hall was thrown into complete chaos. My brother, Guyen, the doting older brother who always held Guyao in the palm of his hand, rushed over immediately, carefully scooping her up in his arms. Ready to take her to the hospital, holding her, he suddenly turned around, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at my father. "It's all your fault, you had to bring this jinx back, now Yao Yao is hurt, are you satisfied?" Gu Jinghai's face darkened as if ink could drip from it. He turned around and roared like a beast at the guests around him who were constantly filming with their phones. "No filming. Anyone who dares to post the photos is going against our Gu family." Watching Guyan carrying Gu Yao away in a frantic rush on the screen, the curve at the corner of my mouth deepened bit by bit. "You're really good to your sister," I spoke softly, as if sharing some heartfelt words. "Make sure to focus on driving, don't just keep looking at your sister, or you might accidentally rear-end the car in front, for example, a globally limited edition Rolls-Royce Phantom." I closed the TV with satisfaction, lay down on the small, cold, and hard bed, and closed my eyes. This was the most peaceful sleep I had since returning to this home. Half an hour later, a piercing phone ringtone woke me up. It was a news notification. Breaking news: a serious rear-end collision occurred on Zhongshan Road in the city. A Porsche 911 rear-ended a limited edition Rolls-Royce Phantom. According to preliminary estimates by on-site experts, the repair costs may exceed 7 figures. In the news photo, the flashy Porsche's front end was completely smashed. My dear brother, Guyan, was grabbing his hair, anxiously explaining something to the traffic police. Even through the screen, you could feel his utter frustration. The next day, I woke up naturally for once, pushing open the door. The living room downstairs was eerily quiet. All 4 members of their family had finally returned. Each one looked disheveled, with a heavy, oppressive atmosphere hanging over them. Lin Lan's cheeks were swollen high, and a bandage covered the corner of her mouth, with faint black stitches still visible. The fall from last night had been quite severe. Guyao sat in a wheelchair, her right foot encased in a thick cast, pushed along by a nanny. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Like 2 rotten peaches, Guyan's eyes were bloodshot. His hair a mess, and he seemed as if all his energy had been drained, likely still worrying about that astronomical repair bill. The moment they stepped through the door, their eyes fell in unison on me, sitting at the dining table, leisurely sipping a glass of milk. This was the first time I had ever been permitted to have breakfast at the main dining table. On the table lay smoked salmon, toasted bread, and freshly squeezed orange juice. Their gazes, first stunned, then sharp as poisoned daggers, shot straight toward me, filled with a mix of terror and venomous resentment. "It's you, it must be you, you jinx," Lin Lan, with her well-maintained fingers pointing at me, her voice so sharp it almost pierced the eardrums, and the wounds on her face began to bleed from the agitation. I leisurely set down the milk glass, raised my eyes, and looked at them with the most innocent expression. I just wanted you to come home and rest early." Care, Guyan was like a lit stick of dynamite, roaring as he charged over, grabbing my collar and roughly yanking me up from the dining chair. The collar tightened instantly, choking my neck, making it hard to breathe. His eyes were bloodshot, and he growled through gritted teeth. "What kind of sorcery have you used?" Gu Jinghai and Lin Lan watched coldly. Not a single one of them spoke up to stop it. Gu Yao, sitting in the wheelchair, even had a faint, almost imperceptible smirk at the corner of her mouth. "Perfect, everyone's here." I tilted my head back, tears quickly welling up in my eyes, my voice trembling uncontrollably, choked with sobs. "Brother, please don't be like this, I'm scared. You mustn't get too angry. It's not worth harming your health. When you get worked up, your hands tend to become unsteady. What if you accidentally knock over that Song Dynasty Celadon vase you treasure so much in the study?" Before the words had even finished, from the study behind him came first a faint creaking sound from the wooden shelf, then a loud crack echoed through the air. The sharp, piercing sound of shattering was like the scythe of death, slicing through everyone's nerve endings. The entire villa fell into a deathly silence. Guyan's hand, which had been gripping my neck, instantly froze. He seemed to be under a spell of immobilization, turning his head inch by inch, extremely slowly, toward the direction of the study. Then he abruptly released me. I fell to the ground, gasping for breath, watching coldly as he rushed into the study like a madman. "No, impossible." His dazed murmurs came from the study, soon turning into a beast-like wail. Lin Lan and Gu Jinghai were also stunned. They followed and stood at the study door, watching Guyan kneeling before the scattered celadon fragments, their faces drained of all color. Guyan reached out a trembling hand, trying to piece the fragments together, but was cut and bloodied by the sharp shards. That was his prized possession, bought for 3 million at an auction. Now it has turned into worthless trash scattered all over the ground. They finally turned to look at me, and their expressions had completely changed. No longer the previous disgust and contempt, but a deep fear mixed with shock and horror. They finally realized that I am not some kind of jinx, I am their harbinger of doom. From that day on, The atmosphere in the Gu family became eerie. They began to curry favor with me in various ways, looking at me as if I were a plague god ready to erupt in anger at any moment. During dinner, Gu Jinghai, for the first time ever, placed a piece of spare ribs in my bowl, forcing a smile that looked more painful than tears. Xiaoshui, eat more, look how thin you are. He rubbed his hands, hesitating for a long time before finally speaking. That Dad's company has a very important project negotiation tomorrow. It's crucial for the Gu family. You wish Dad success in securing it, okay? I looked at his fawning face and sneered inwardly. Yesterday, he allowed Gu Yan to be rough with me, and today he comes to beg me. I obediently nodded, revealing a sweet smile. All right, I wish Dad's competitors perform exceptionally well tomorrow and secure the project at a price Dad simply can't refuse. Gu Jinghai's face instantly turned ashen. The chopsticks in his hand clattered onto the table. He wanted to lash out but didn't dare. He could only hold back his anger, his face flushing a deep, purplish red. Lin Lan quickly tried to smooth things over. Xiaoshui, stop joking with your dad. Come on, say it again properly. I blinked my eyes, looking completely innocent. I've already said it. The next day, the stock price of the Gu Group plummeted. News reports revealed that the Southern City Development Project, which Gu Jinghai had been preparing for half a year, was snatched away by the rival Zhou Group at a price 20% higher. The price was so absurdly high that there was no profit margin at all, and everyone thought the Zhou Group had gone mad. But Gu Jinghai knew it wasn't the Zhou Group that had gone mad, it was the irresistible price I had mentioned coming true. He was publicly questioned by several senior members at the board meeting due to the failure of this project, completely losing face. In the evening, he returned home, utterly dejected, sitting on the sofa without saying a word. Gu Yao, sitting in a wheelchair, carefully moved closer to me. She put on a pitiful expression and took my hand. Sister, I was wrong. I shouldn't have spilled soup on you. Will you forgive me? Please, I beg you. Wish for my foot to heal quickly. The doctor said if I don't take good care of it, I might never be able to dance again. What she prides herself on most is her ballet dancing. I looked at her foot in a cast and smiled gently. Great, I wish your doctor a sudden flash of inspiration, realizing that your bones were actually set wrong. To ensure you can still dance beautifully in the future, he decides to break and reset them right away. Guya's smile froze on her face, quickly turning into terror. No, I don't want to, she screamed, trying to stand up from the wheelchair, but fell back down due to the intense pain. The next day, the hospital called. During a review of the x-rays, Guya's attending physician indeed discovered that a small piece of fractured bone was in the wrong position. To avoid affecting future function, a second surgery was necessary. Thus, Guya began her long and painful second round of treatment. Every day, she cried and wailed in the hospital room. When the news of Guya's second surgery came back, Lin Lan broke down on the spot. She rushed into my room and swept all the books off my desk. Gu Shuai, what exactly do you want? We are your family. Do you hate us this much? Her eyes were bloodshot. Like an enraged lioness, I leisurely picked up a book from the ground and brushed off the dust on it. I'm just blessing you. You're the one who told me not to joke around and to speak seriously. Look, if Yao Yao's foot isn't properly reset, what if she ends up permanently crippled? I'm doing this for her own good. My words were light as a feather, yet they struck Lin Lan's heart like a sharp knife. She trembled with anger, pointing at me, unable to utter a word for a long time. You demon, I laughed. Don't say that, Mom. You've been so worn out lately because of Yao Yao and my brother's matters. Even the wrinkles at the corners of your eyes have deepened. I wish you eternal youth and beauty. With skin as smooth as a freshly peeled egg, Lin Lan was taken aback for a moment. Instinctively reaching up to touch her face, she shot me a skeptical glare before turning and rushing out of the room. That very evening, she spent a fortune to hire the city's best beauty team to come to her home for a treatment. The next morning, she appeared in the dining room glowing, and her skin had indeed visibly improved. She looked at herself in the mirror and showed a long-lost smile. Her gaze toward me softening considerably. You still have a bit of a conscience, she said smugly to Gu Jinghai. It seems that as long as we treat her a little better, she will still bless us. Gu Jinghai and Gu Yan also seemed to let out a sigh of relief. However, by the afternoon, Lin Lan's face began to look off. Her skin became unusually sensitive, starting to turn red and itch. By evening, her entire face was swollen like a pig's head, covered in red rashes and unbearably itchy. She screamed in terror, locked herself in the room, and frantically scratched her face. The family doctor rushed over and diagnosed it as a severe allergy, specifically, an allergy to her favorite set of high-end skincare products. Madam, I'm afraid, you won't be able to use any cosmetics or skincare products from now on. Smooth as a peeled egg, yes, after the allergic swelling subsides, her face will shed a layer of skin. Just like being reborn, it's just that this process is enough to drive her Someone who values her appearance more than her life. Completely insane. Lin Lan's face is completely ruined. She locked herself in her room, refusing to see anyone, and every day, her hysterical screams and the sound of things being smashed could be heard. The atmosphere at home was suffocatingly tense. Guyan's gaze towards me was like a venom-tipped ice arrow. He hadn't yet gathered the money to compensate for the Rolls-Royce, and to keep the funds flowing. A high-risk project he had invested in had lost everything overnight. He blamed all his failures on me. That day, he brought in a master from who knows where, dressed in Taoist robes and looking like an immortal. The master circled around me twice, muttering incantations. This woman is filled with overwhelming resentment, a sign of a cursed loner. We must perform a ritual to exorcise the evil, or the Gu family will be ruined. Guyan immediately seized upon this as a lifeline. Master, please perform the ritual quickly. Gu Jinghai also looked grave, tacitly approving Guyan's actions. I was forcibly pressed into a chair, while the so-called master brandished a peachwood sword in front of me, gesturing wildly and spraying some unknown liquid from his mouth. Utterly disgusting. I looked coldly at that charlatan putting on an act. Master, you seem to possess profound spiritual power. I bless you. May your power surge today. May the heavenly thunder cheer for you, allowing you to achieve enlightenment and ascend on the spot. The master paused his movements and glanced at me with disdain. Stop your nonsense. I will capture you today. As soon as he finished speaking, the originally clear sky outside the window suddenly became overcast with dark clouds. Boom! A bolt of thunder struck without warning. Impartially, it struck precisely the century-old locust tree in the villa's courtyard. The old locust tree was instantly split in two, bursting into raging flames. As for that master, he was utterly terrified by the sudden thunderbolt. His peachwood sword clattering to the ground, his legs gave way, and he fell to his knees, his trousers quickly soaking through. Heavenly punishment, it's heavenly punishment. He scrambled and crawled toward the door, screaming incoherently all the while. Monster, this is a true monster. This humble Taoist cannot subdue it. Cannot subdue it. He ran too hastily, tripped over the threshold at the doorway, fell flat on his back, and couldn't get up for a long time. Guyan and Gu Jinghai stared at the scene in stunned silence, the color draining completely from their faces. Their last hope had also been shattered. After the exorcism failed, the household fell into an eerie calm. They no longer tried to do anything to me, only looking at me with a mixture of fear and despair in their eyes. It's as if I'm not a person, but a bomb that could explode at any moment. That evening, while I was reading in my room, Guyan knocked on my door. This was the first time he had taken the initiative to come to me. What is it? I didn't open the door, asking through the wooden panel. There was a long silence outside the door before his hoarse, dry voice finally came through. Yo, she's in a very bad condition. After the second surgery, the wound got infected, and she's been running a high fever. The doctor said if things continue like this, the leg might not be saved. His voice carried a hint of pleading. Gu Shui, I'm begging you, whatever you want, I'll give it to you, as long as you wish Yao a speedy recovery. I leaned against the door and laughed. Your most treasured antique vase is already shattered. What else can you give me? Guyan's voice grew urgent. My car, my Porsche, even though it's damaged, it can still fetch a good price once repaired. I'll give it all to you. And all the shares under my name, though not many, they amount to 2%, I'll give those to you too, as long as Yao can get better. Listening to his humble plea, I felt not the slightest bit moved. Back when he grabbed me by the collar and called me a sorcerer, he certainly wasn't this polite. All right, I whispered softly. I wish Guya good fortune in avoiding calamity and surviving great danger. Outside the door, Guyan felt as if he had been granted a great reprieve. After repeatedly expressing his gratitude, he hurried away. He probably thought this was the best blessing he could give, a narrow escape from death. Yes, not dead, but amputation won't kill you either. The next day, news came from the hospital. Guya's infection worsened further, and to save her life, the doctor recommended immediate amputation surgery. When Guyan received the call, he was completely stunned. He rushed to the hospital, knelt before the doctor, pleading desperately, but in the end, he had no choice but to sign the surgical consent form. After waking up, Guya discovered she had lost a leg and went mad on the spot. She can never dance again. All her pride and capital vanished forever along with that leg. After Guya's amputation, she completely lost her mind and was sent to a mental hospital. Lin Lan, devastated by her daughter's tragic fate and the blow of her own disfigurement, turned gray overnight, aging 20 years in an instant. Guyanza was completely devastated, drinking heavily all day long and losing consciousness. The Gu family, once a prominent and illustrious household, had become fragmented and teetering on the brink of collapse within just a month. Only Gu Jinghai was left struggling to hold on. His company's stock price kept falling, partners terminated contracts one after another, banks began demanding loan repayments, and the capital chain was on the verge of breaking at any moment. He finally couldn't hold on any longer. That evening, he called me into the study. This is my first time setting foot in this place. He sat behind the massive mahogany desk, his face haggard, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. He looked at me with a complicated expression in his eyes. Xiaoshui. His voice was hoarse. The Gu family is finished. I know. All of this is because of you. He took a document from the drawer and pushed it toward me. This is a 30% equity transfer agreement of the Gu Group. As long as you sign, you will be the largest shareholder of Gu Corporation. I have only one request. Save the Gu family. He actually wanted to use the company's shares to make a deal with me. I picked up the agreement and, without even looking at it, threw it directly into the nearby shredder. A harsh sun rang out, and the agreement instantly turned into a pile of scrap paper. Gu Xinghai's eyes suddenly widened. You. I looked at his shocked and angry face and smiled. Do you think I care about any of this? How did you treat me when you brought me back from that poor but warm home? Lin Lan called me a jinx. Gu Yan warned me to behave, and Gu Yao poured hot soup on me. You treated me like a piece of garbage to be discarded at will. And now that you're desperate, you want to buy me off with money. Gu Xinghan. Don't you think that's utterly ridiculous? I stepped closer to him, looking down at him from above. What I want has never been your money. What I want is for you to taste the pain I've endured. It's for you to kneel down and beg me. Gu Xinghai's body trembled violently. He braced himself against the table to keep from collapsing. He looked at me as if I were a demon crawling out of hell. You. What do you want? What do I want? I tilted my head. I wish your Gu family nothing but poverty, debt, and eternal ruin. As my words fell, Gu Xinghai's phone began to ring frantically. His hand trembled as he answered the call, and his assistant's panicked voice came through from the other end. Chairman Gu, it's bad. The Tax Bureau and Securities Commission suddenly showed up at our door, saying they want to audit our company's accounts. Our biggest creditors have joined forces to apply for asset preservation, and all the company's accounts have been frozen. It's over, Chairman Gu, we're completely finished. The phone slipped from Gu Xinghai's hand, fell to the ground, and the screen shattered into pieces. He seemed to have all his strength drained from him, slumping into the chair, his face ashen. I didn't spare him another glance, turned around, and left the study. The next day, the scandal of tax evasion and financial fraud at Gu Group spread like wildfire. Gu Xinghai, as the legal representative, was taken away for investigation. The villa was sealed off by the court, with official notices posted on it. Lin Lan and Gu Yan were driven out, left to wander the streets. I stood on the road across from the villa, watching their disheveled state. Lin Lan, with disheveled hair, sat by the roadside, clutching a suitcase and wailing loudly. Gu Yan squatted nearby, smoking a cigarette with a numb expression. When they saw me, they rushed over like mad. Gu Shui, it's all your fault, you wicked woman. You raised me, and this is how you treat us. Lin Lan tried to rush at me to tear me apart, but was stopped by the bodyguards beside me. I looked at her face, pitted and scarred from allergies, and felt an overwhelming sense of irony. Raised me? Have you ever given me a single penny? Have you ever shown me a kind look? It was you who tore me away from my adoptive parents and ruined my life. No, I'm just returning everything you once inflicted upon me. Gu Yan suddenly knelt down. He kowtowed heavily to me several times. I was wrong, Gu Shui. I was truly wrong. I shouldn't have treated you that way. I shouldn't have helped Gu Yao bully you. Please, spare us. We have nothing left. Please give us another chance. He wept bitterly. Looking utterly wretched, I watched him coldly. Another chance. I've given you countless chances. It was you, time and again, who pushed them away with your own hands. I turned around, ready to get in the car and leave. Lin Lan suddenly let out a piercing scream behind me. Gu Shui, I curse you. I curse you to die a miserable death, just like us, to end up with nothing. I paused in my steps, turned around, and gave her a bright smile. Thank you for your blessing. However, the system is bound to me, so your curse has no effect on me, but my blessing for you will always be valid. I wish you and Gu Yan a lifetime, to enjoy everything you have now. After I finished speaking, I got into the car and sped away. Behind me were their desperate cries and curses. I have returned to my true home. My adoptive parents saw me and hugged me tightly with excitement. Xiaoshui, you've finally come back. Those people didn't bully you, did they? My adoptive mother touched my face, her eyes reddening. I shook my head and smiled, saying, no, I'm fine. My adoptive father sighed beside me. It's good to have you back. It's good to have you back. We don't care about any wealthy family. As long as we're together as a family, that's all that matters. I looked at their wrinkled faces and the white hair at their temples, feeling a pang of sorrow in my heart. All these years, they have worked tirelessly to raise me. Even though our family wasn't well off, they always gave me the best they had. The Gu family, all they ever gave me was hurt and humiliation. I took out a bank card and pressed it into my foster mother's hand. Dad, Mom, this is the money I've saved over the years. Take it, and don't work so hard anymore. The card contained the portion of assets that rightfully belonged to me, which I had legally transferred out after the Gu family's assets were seized. Though not much, it is enough for our family to live a stable and comfortable life. My adoptive parents declined, but I insisted on giving it to them. You have raised me for 18 years. Now, it's my turn to take care of you. After settling my adoptive parents, I went to the mental hospital. Through the thick glass, I saw Gu Yao. She was wearing a blue and white striped hospital gown, her hair shaved very short. Clutching a pillow, muttering incessantly to herself, "My legs, where are my legs? I am the best dancer, my legs." She would cry one moment and laugh the next, completely lost in her own world. The nurse said she repeated these words hundreds of times every day. I watched her quietly for a while before turning to leave. I did not wish for her recovery. Living in her own fantasy might be the best ending for her. After leaving the mental hospital, I received an unexpected phone call. It was my adoptive brother, Lin Hao. He is the biological son of my adoptive parents, a down-to-earth programmer who has always been very kind to me. "Xiaoxue, are you okay?" On the other end of the phone, his voice sounded hesitant. "I'm fine, brother, what's wrong?" I saw the news about the Gu family." He paused, then cautiously asked, "Are those really related to you?" He finally found out. I remained silent for a moment, not denying it. "Yes." There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Just when I thought he would criticize me like Guyen, he let out a long sigh of relief. "Well done." I was stunned. "Bro, I've long disliked that family." Lin Hao's voice suddenly grew agitated. "When they came to pick you up back then, that arrogant look on their faces, I just wanted to punch them. They took you away, and Mom and Dad cried every day. I wanted to rush over and snatch you back from them. Xiaoxue, you've suffered. Whatever you do, I'll support you." Listening to his clumsy yet sincere words of comfort, my eyes grew warm. This is my family. No matter what I become, they are the family who will unconditionally stand by my side. Later, I heard a lot about the aftermath of the Gu family. Gu Jinghai was sentenced to 20 years in prison for multiple charges. Lin Lan couldn't handle the blow and developed mental issues, ending up in the same psychiatric hospital as Gu Yao, where mother and daughter became fellow patients. As for Guyen, after wandering the streets for a while, he got into a drunken brawl and accidentally severely injured someone, landing himself in prison. In the end, each member of their family paid the price for their actions in different places. As for me, I used the remaining money to buy my adoptive parents a bigger house and invested in my adoptive brother's company. His company was developing very well and soon became a well-known enterprise in the industry. Our family's life was getting better and better. The crow's mouth system automatically unbound after I completed my revenge against the Gu family. Newbie mission completed. Final evaluation, SSS rank. The host has successfully taken control of their destiny. The system is automatically unbinding. Wishing you a pleasant life. It came suddenly and left just as decisively. I have returned to being an ordinary person, but I know that my life can never go back to the way it was. I have experienced the deepest darkness and savored the thrill of revenge. Now, I am calm and strong within. On this day, I was having a meal in the yard with my adoptive parents, my brother, and his wife, enjoying a warm and joyful atmosphere. A social news report was playing on the television. A woman was crying on the street, saying she had been driven out of her home by her family and was now homeless. My adoptive mother sighed with sympathy. How pitiful. How could there be such a heartless family? I looked at the familiar yet unfamiliar face on the TV, disfigured and changed, and smiled faintly. Pitiful people often have their own detestable qualities. I picked up a piece of food and placed it in my adoptive mother's bowl. "Mom, let's eat." The sun was just right, and the breeze was gentle. My brand new life was just beginning. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. At the opening ceremony, my roommate rushed onto the stage and snatched the microphone. She pointed at my nose and screamed hysterically in front of the entire school. "It's her. She seduced my dad. She's a shameless homewrecker." The eyes of all the teachers and students instantly pierced through me like knives. I didn't explain. I just calmly dialed her father's number in front of everyone and put it on speakerphone. "Dad, when did I get a little sister? How come I didn't know?" It was September, and the lingering heat of the autumn tiger was still present. The scorching sun baked the dome of the auditorium, filling the air with the mixed scent of sweat from the freshmen and the restless energy unique to adolescence. The principal was on stage, reciting a lengthy and uninspiring welcome speech. His voice, amplified through the speakers, became somewhat distorted, like a lullaby coming from an old radio, making the sea of heads below drowsy. I sat in the freshman square of the architecture department, gazing absent-mindedly out the window at the sycamore leaves curling under the scorching sun. Just then, a sharp, discordant figure shattered the heavy silence. Lin Weiwei. My roommate, whom I had just met 3 days ago at the start of the semester, was wearing a high-end dress that stood out from everyone around her. Her makeup was exquisite but twisted with excitement as she frantically rushed onto the stage. She snatched the microphone from the principal's hand, and a piercing burst of static instantly tore through the auditorium. The entire hall suddenly fell silent. Everyone's gaze was drawn over. Lin Weiwei's chest heaved violently. She didn't look at anyone. Her eyes, adorned with expensive eyeshadow, were like two poisoned daggers, fixed dead on me. "It's her, Jiangqi." Her voice cracked with excitement, screaming hysterically, her finger pointing straight at me. "Everyone has been deceived by her. Don't be fooled by her innocent and pure appearance. Behind the scenes, she's involved in the most despicable schemes. She seduced my father. She destroyed my family. She's a shameless homewrecker. A vixen." Boom. The entire auditorium seemed to have been hit by a bomb. Instantly erupting into chaos, countless gazes, disdainful, curious, angry, and gleeful, surged toward me like a tidal wave. The classmates beside me instinctively moved their chairs away, creating distance as if I carried some deadly virus. The lights from phone cameras flickered on and off among the crowd, like a field of ghostly flames. I can hear the shutter clicks, hear the whispers. "Oh my God, is it really true? I can't tell. She looks like such a sweet girl." You never know what's in someone's heart. Some girls will do anything for money. Her roommate came forward to testify. How could it be fake? She's really bringing shame to our school. The counselor and student council officers snapped out of their daze and rushed onto the stage, trying to restrain Lin Weiwei, who had already descended into madness. "Lin, calm down. Whatever it is, let's talk about it off stage. Don't touch me." Lin Weiwei shook them off, crying as if she had suffered a great injustice. "Today, I'm going to expose this woman's true face in front of the entire school. I won't let her use that face to deceive anyone else." The scene descended into chaos. I became the center of this storm. Strangely, there wasn't a ripple in my heart. I didn't even feel humiliation or anger. It was as if my body had been pulled away, turning me into a bystander, coldly watching the girl on stage with her smeared makeup and disgraceful appearance, and watching the spectators below who were so easily swayed, revealing their ugly sides. The scene, how familiar it was. I thought of my mother. In the final days of her life, she was just like this, surrounded by invisible, malicious words, slowly devoured of all her vitality, and those perpetrators always believe they stand on the moral high ground. I lowered my gaze, my long eyelashes casting a small shadow beneath my eyes. Under everyone's gaze, I didn't cry, didn't defend myself, and didn't show even a hint of panic. I just slowly took out my phone from my pocket. My fingertips slid across the cold screen, finding that familiar yet unfamiliar number. Lin Weiwei was still on stage, tearfully accusing me, listing her so-called evidence, saying how her father had recently been caring for me, how he drove me to school, and how he sent me living expenses. These are all facts, but when they come out of her mouth, they turn into a dirty, sordid transaction. I pressed the dial button, then, from an angle where everyone could see, I pressed the speakerphone button. Beep, beep. The quiet waiting tone, amplified infinitely through the microphone, became eerily clear amidst the chaotic auditorium. Everyone's voices unconsciously lowered as they curiously watched my actions. On the stage, Lin Weiwei also stopped her tearful complaints and looked at me with confusion. The phone call connected. A magnetic, mature, and steady male voice, now clearly tinged with indulgence, came through the phone, echoing throughout the auditorium. "Chi-Chi, is the ceremony over? Dad is waiting for you at the school gate for dinner." This voice, all color drained from Lin Weiwei's face, her pupils contracting sharply. The face she had cooed to and fawned over every day was now etched with utter disbelief, for the owner of that voice was none other than the man she had called the one I seduced. Her father, Jiang Jinghong. A deathly silence fell over the auditorium. The sound of a pin dropping on the floor would probably be audible. I raised my head, meeting Lin Weiwei's pale face and the stunned gazes of the entire school's teachers and students. My voice wasn't loud, even somewhat unnervingly calm, but through the microphone, every word struck everyone's hearts like a heavy hammer. "Dad, when did I get a little sister? How come I didn't know?" One sentence, and the entire room fell into dead silence. Time seemed to have been paused at this moment. On the other end of the phone, Jiang Jinghong was clearly stunned. It took him several seconds before his panicked voice came through. Chi, you, what did you say? You and Wei Wei, where are you? His voice was filled with disbelief and a panic that something was about to be exposed. I didn't answer again. I just quietly hung up the phone and put it back in my pocket. On the stage, Lin Weiwei seemed to have all her strength drained away. Staggering back 2 steps before being caught by the rushing counselor, she looked at me, her lips trembling, but not a single word came out. In her eyes, there was no longer the righteous indignation from before, only fear, confusion, and a hint of embarrassment from having her lies exposed. In less than 5 minutes, the side door of the auditorium was abruptly pushed open. Jiang Jinghong rushed in frantically. He was still wearing his well-tailored custom suit, but his hair was slightly disheveled, and a fine layer of sweat covered his forehead. His gaze swept quickly across the auditorium before finally settling on Lin Weiwei and me on the stage. His face was ashen, his expression incredibly complex. There was anger at Lin Weiwei's antics, embarrassment under the gaze of the entire school, and, when he looked at me, a deep, overwhelming guilt mixed with a hint of a plea. He strode toward me with purpose, the surrounding students automatically parting to make way for him. Chi, he reached out, trying to grasp my wrist, his voice strained. I took a step back, coldly avoiding his touch. His hand froze midair, the expression on his face growing even more awkward. He knew now was not the time for explanations. He had to deal with this mess first. He turned around, strode up to the podium in a few steps, and almost roughly grabbed the still-dazed Lin Weiwei, dragging her out without a word. While dragging her, he repeatedly apologized to the equally stunned school leaders. I'm sorry, Principal Wang, teachers, the child doesn't know any better and has caused trouble for everyone. I will definitely discipline her properly. A grand opening ceremony ultimately ended in such a messy and embarrassing manner. I was called to the office by my academic advisor. The advisor was a female teacher in her early 30s. Surnamed Zhang, she poured me a glass of warm water, her gaze filled with curiosity, sympathy, and a hint of awkwardness, as if she didn't know how to begin. Jiangqi, you, and your roommate, and that Mr. Jiang just now, you. She carefully chose her words, clearly bewildered by the drama that could rival an 8 o'clock soap opera. He is my father, I said calmly, taking a sip of water. The warm liquid slid down my throat, yet it couldn't warm the chill in my heart. My biological father, I added. The counselor's expression grew even more complicated. She sighed. And what about Lin Weiwei? I don't know, I interrupted her. In the past 20 years of my life, I never knew I had a sister. The counselor fell silent. She probably thought this was a wealthy family's drama of love and hate, not something an ordinary teacher like her could comment on. In the end, she just patted my shoulder and said, the school will handle today's matter. Don't overthink it. Go back to your dorm and rest for now. I nodded and walked out of the office. The setting sun stretched my shadow long across the ground. Students in 2s and 3s on campus pointed at me and whispered, their voices low, but I could guess what they were saying. I didn't go back to the dorm. That place suffocated me. I walked alone to the artificial lake on campus and watched the shimmering ripples on the water. My mother was once the most celebrated young painter in the country. One of her works sold for a 7-figure sum. She is gentle, beautiful, and talented, the favored daughter in everyone's eyes. She and my father, Jiang Jinghong, were university classmates, from school uniforms to wedding gowns. They were once the fairy tale couple envied by everyone in their circle, until the year I turned 10. Everything changed. Father came home less and less, and mother smiled less and less. Later, I found out that my father had someone else outside. From then on, my mother withered rapidly, like a flower cut off from its water source. She developed severe depression, suffering from insomnia night after night, shutting herself in the studio but never again able to paint a complete picture. On the eve of my college entrance exams, she leaped from the studio window, ending her painful life. The last words she left me were to live well and stay away from him. I complied. For 3 whole years, I lived with my grandfather, never answering a single call from Jiang Jinghong, never replying to a single message from him, completely cutting off all contact, until just before the start of the school year, he reached out through my grandfather, almost pleading, saying he wanted to send me to college, wanting to do something for me. To make up for the years of fatherly love that had been missing, I watched the increasing gray at his temples, saw the plea in his eyes, and in the end, my heart softened. I thought it was just guilt. I thought he truly wanted to make it up to me. How laughable it all seems now. He not only had another family outside, but also a daughter of my age. He not only kept that illegitimate daughter by his side but also raised her to be so arrogant and domineering that she dared to come to my territory on the very first day of school, hurling the most vicious slanders and trampling on me. I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms, bringing a sharp sting. My phone vibrated once. It was a message from Jiang Jinghong. Chi-Chi, Dad is waiting for you at the school gate. Can we find a place to talk? I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I looked at the words I'm sorry and felt nothing but overwhelming irony. My fingers flew across the cold screen. My mother's death anniversary is coming up. Do you still have the face to see me? Message sent successfully. There was no reply from the other side. By the time I returned to the dormitory, it was already completely dark. The lights were on in the dormitory, but Lin Weiwei's bed was empty, with the blanket piled up in a mess, as if its owner had left in a hurry and never returned. The other two roommates, one named Li Jing and the other Wang Meng, were huddled together, whispering about something. Seeing me push the door open, their conversation abruptly stopped, and they exchanged a strange look. Li Jing forced an unnatural smile. Jiangqi, you're back. Are you okay? Wang Meng, on the other hand, lowered her head, pretending to tidy up her desk, not even daring to look at me. The air was thick with awkwardness and distance. I know I'm being isolated. No one wants to be friends with a suspected illegitimate daughter of a wealthy family or a ruthless character who tore apart her illegitimate sister. Whichever role I am, it means trouble. I ignored them, walked straight to my seat, and opened my laptop. The school forum has completely exploded. The pinned, highlighted post titles are more sensational than the last. Shocking scoop. Architecture Department freshman welcoming ceremony features a case of mistaken identity, in-depth analysis. Behind the ceremony fiasco, is it a moral decline or a distortion of human nature? Let's talk about that cool girl who called Daddy on the phone, and that rich, beautiful roommate who cried and called her a homewrecker. The post has racked up tens of thousands of replies, with all sorts of speculations and theories flying around. Someone dug up Lin Weiwei's social media accounts, which were filled with photos of designer bags, luxury goods, high-end restaurants, and trips around the world. In every picture, she was dressed like a delicate princess. This confirmed her identity as a rich girl. As for me, my social media accounts are completely blank. I wear the most ordinary brands, and I'm usually quiet and reserved, not fond of socializing. In stark contrast, public opinion began to take a strange turn. Many people started to sympathize with Lin Weiwei, even though Lin Weiwei was a bit impulsive. Isn't she also a victim? Her father was taken away. How could she not be upset? That Jiangqi is just too calm, so calm it's a bit scary. Seems like she's got a lot of schemes up her sleeve. Yeah, she's clearly the daughter of the legal wife, yet she lives so ordinarily, and her dad doesn't even acknowledge her. Meanwhile, that illegitimate daughter made such a big scene right at the start of the semester, even daring to call and question her dad. Definitely not someone to be trifled with. I kind of feel like this Jiangqi deliberately provoked Lin Weiwei, then embarrassed her at the ceremony just to climb her way up. Looking at these twisted and false remarks, I could only find it laughable. People always tend to sympathize with the one who appears weaker and cries louder, without ever bothering to uncover the truth. Just then, the dormitory door was flung open. Lin Weiwei had returned. Her eyes were swollen and red, like two walnuts, clearly having cried her heart out. She changed out of her glamorous dress into a simple t-shirt and jeans, and removed her meticulously applied makeup, revealing a pale and haggard face. The look in her eyes was no longer just simple jealousy and hostility, but a mix of fear, humiliation, and a deeper hatred, the kind that comes from having everything destroyed by me. Without a word, she walked up to me and slammed her phone onto my desk with a sharp thud. The screen was lit up, showing the chat history between her and her mother. A person labeled Mom sent long voice messages and texts. Vivi, you were too impulsive. How many times have I told you that Jiangqi is no good? Her mother was a vixen back in the day, and she's no better. By making a scene today, you played right into her hands. Your dad will only think you're being unreasonable now, while she gets to play the pitiful, bullied older sister. She did it on purpose. She deliberately embarrassed you at the ceremony. Deliberately made your dad see your domineering side. She's trying to drive us mother and daughter to the brink. Listen, from now on, you don't do anything at school, just play the role of a bullied, hurt daughter to win everyone's sympathy. Leave the rest to Mom to handle. This Mom is Su Man, the woman who destroyed my family. Lin Weiwei stared at me fiercely, her voice hoarse as she growled. Are you satisfied? Are you happy that you've ruined everything for me? Letting everyone know I'm an illegitimate child who can't be shown in public, making sure you stand firm in front of my dad. Are you feeling proud now? Looking at her, so thoroughly brainwashed and unable to distinguish right from wrong, I suddenly felt that even getting angry was unnecessary. I simply raised my eyes, looked at her calmly, and said word by word, first, the one who ruined you is not me, but your mother, who can't even be brought into the open. She gave birth to you as an illegitimate child, and she also encouraged you to provoke me. Second, I don't need to secure my position, because in this family, I am already the only rightful master. As for you, I smiled lightly, though the smile didn't reach my eyes. What right does an illegitimate child, hidden from the light, have to shout at me here? You, Lin Weiwei trembled with rage, raising her hand to slap me across the face. My eyes turned cold. And just before her hand could land, I firmly caught her wrist. My strength wasn't great, but the icy look in my eyes sent a shiver down her spine. Don't push me to act, I said, releasing her hand, my voice devoid of any warmth. If you dare touch me again, I won't mind showing you what true humiliation feels like. Lin Weiwei was frightened by me, clutching her wrist as tears once again fell uncontrollably. Just then, my phone rang. It was Jiang Jinghong. I impatiently hung up. He called again. I hung up again. The third time, he sent a message directly. I'm downstairs at your dorm. If you don't come down, I'll come up. This was a blatant threat. I knew he was capable of doing it. I grabbed my coat and walked out expressionlessly, leaving behind 3 roommates who were as quiet as cicadas in winter, and Lin Weiwei, who was crying even louder. Downstairs, Jiang Jinghong's black Bentley stood out conspicuously in the night. He forcibly took me into the car, sped all the way, and finally stopped in front of a standalone villa halfway up the mountain. The lights were ablaze. In the living room, a middle-aged woman wearing a lotus-colored cheongsam, with a gentle and intellectual demeanor, was holding Lin Weiwei's hand, softly comforting her about something. Seeing me enter, she immediately stood up, her face showing just the right amount of panic and apology. She is Su Man. This was the first time I had seen this woman, whom I had only ever seen in photos, so up close. She is well-maintained, looking no more than in her 30s, with a meticulously crafted charm in the corners of her eyes and brows. Chi-Chi, you're here. Su Man stepped forward, her demeanor very humble. What happened today was all my fault. I didn't teach Weiwei well, letting her hurt you on impulse. I sincerely apologize to you on her behalf here. As she spoke, she actually bowed deeply to me. Lin Weiwei, standing to the side, reluctantly chimed in, I'm sorry. Jiang Jinghong chimed in to smooth things over. All right, we're all family here. Once things are cleared up, it's fine. Chi-Chi, Su Man, she didn't mean any harm. I watched their back and forth with a cold gaze, as if observing a farcical play. Seeing that I remained silent, Su Man took another step closer, trying to take my hand, but I turned aside to avoid her. She didn't seem embarrassed. Instead, she put on a wounded expression and let out a soft sigh. I know you must resent me in your heart, but Chi-Chi, my feelings for your father are genuine. Moreover, I have always admired your mother, Teacher Jiang. She was a remarkable artist. As she spoke, she pointed to a painting hanging on the living room wall. That was my mother's painting, a landscape depicting the fallen leaves of late autumn, with desolate brushstrokes and rich colors. Look, I've collected all of Teacher Jiang's art books, and her works are hanging in my home. I never intended to take her place. Su Man's eyes reddened, her voice tinged with a hint of grievance. It's just that matters of the heart are truly hard to control, and your mother, her personality might be a bit too reclusive. Artists, you know, are often lost in their own worlds and sometimes overlook the people around them. Your father, he's actually quite troubled. Listening to her words, I almost laughed in anger. What a masterful reversal of black and white. What a performance steeped in green tea flavor. With just a few words, she painted herself as a devoted woman who would risk everything for love, depicted my mother as a resentful wife whose personality flaws led to an unhappy marriage, and framed Jiang Jinghong's betrayal as an unavoidable act of passion. And if I were to pursue this further, I would become the unreasonable, ungenerous, and malicious daughter who ruins their beautiful love. What a clever move. This hypocritical family meeting proceeded in an atmosphere that was utterly nauseating. Su Man kept performing her gentle and virtuous act, while Lin Weiwei huddled in the corner like a victim, occasionally shooting me a venomous glare, and my father, Jiang Jinghong, the man who should have been the protagonist, was like an incompetent referee, only repeating, we're all family, and let bygones be bygones. Finally, under Su Man's meaningful gaze, he cleared his throat and got to the point. Chi-Chi, he looked at me, his eyes evasive. What happened today has caused too much of a stir, and it's not good for you or Weiwei. Dad has thought of a solution. He paused, as if finding it difficult to speak. Dad will give you a sum of money, enough to ensure you never have to worry about food or clothing for the rest of your life. Then, could you take a leave of absence from school and transfer to a school abroad? Dad has already arranged it for you, the best architecture school in the UK. To the outside world, we'll say it was your own decision to study abroad, so the turmoil at school can gradually settle down. My blood seemed to freeze in that instant. I stared at him in disbelief. I thought he called me here to apologize, to give me an explanation. I never would have thought that his way of dealing with me was to send me away with money, to quell the storm, to protect his new love and illegitimate daughter. He chose to sacrifice me, to sacrifice his only legitimate daughter. Suman chimed in softly beside him. Yes, Chi-Chi, this is better for both girls. You can start fresh in a new environment. With Weiwei staying in the country, we can also discipline her properly and make sure she doesn't make any more mistakes. Start over. Why should my life have to start over because of their mistakes? I laughed. I genuinely laughed out loud, the sound piercingly sharp in the silent living room. I looked at Jiang Jinghong's face, filled with guilt yet tinged with a hint of impatience, and softly asked, using money to buy my silence, while conveniently making room for you, your mistress, and your illegitimate daughter, is this how you account for my mother? Jiang Jinghong's face instantly turned deathly pale. That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. I abruptly stood up, my voice suddenly rising, the emotions that had been building up all night erupting completely at this moment. Jiang Jinghong, if you had even the slightest bit of remorse for my mother, you wouldn't be able to utter such nonsense. I don't want to see his hypocritical face anymore, nor do I want to hear Suman's nauseating voice. I grabbed my backpack and slammed the door shut without looking back. Chi-Chi, Jiang Jinghong shouted from behind. I didn't turn back. It was hard to get a taxi on the road late at night, so I walked alone along the winding mountain road for a long time. The mountain wind was bitterly cold, making me shiver all over, yet it couldn't extinguish the fire burning in my heart. Finally, I managed to hail a taxi and gave an address, my grandfather's house. My grandfather was a renowned history professor in the country, with students all over the world, and he maintained his integrity throughout his life, from the very beginning. He had looked down on Jiang Jinghong, who came from a business background and later became consumed by greed and ambition. Back when my mother insisted on marrying him, he was so angry he almost cut ties with her. After my mother passed away, my grandfather was my only family. By the time I arrived, it was almost 2 a.m. The lights at my grandfather's house were still on. He had clearly been waiting for me. Seeing my red eyes and pale face, he didn't ask anything, just sighed, patted my back, and said, "It's good that you're back. Coming quickly. It's cold outside." Hot tea, pastries, warm lights. My nerves, which had been tense all night, finally collapsed completely when I smelled the familiar scent of ink and books on my grandfather. I buried my head in my grandfather's arm and cried silently like a child. Grandpa held me quietly, waiting for my emotions to settle before I told him everything that had happened today, including Jiang Jinghong's demand that I transfer schools. Bastard, what an absolute bastard. Grandpa trembled with anger, slamming his teacup heavily on the table. Does he have any conscience at all? Your mother was truly blind. He raged for a while, then stood up and walked into the study. Not long after, he returned carrying a heavy metal safe. Chi-Chi, these are the things your mother left for you, Grandpa said, placing the safe in front of me, before she passed away. She told me to give them to you when you turn 20 or when you face an insurmountable obstacle. I was stunned. Grandpa helped me enter the password and opened the safe. Inside, aside from some of my mother's precious painting manuscripts, there was also a thick stack of documents. The top one was a stock ownership certificate, Jiang Group, 15% shareholding. My breath stopped. I never knew that my mother actually held shares in the Jiang Group. Immediately following was a prenuptial agreement, clearly written in black and white. These 15% shares were brought in by my mother as capital investment, belonging to her personal premarital property. They would automatically be inherited by her child, that is, me, Jiang Qi, upon reaching the age of 20, and my 20th birthday is just 1 month away. At the very bottom of the document was my mother's diary. My hands trembled as I opened it. The elegant handwriting recorded her shock and pain upon discovering her husband's infidelity, followed by her later despair and numbness. But the latter part of the diary changed. She no longer just cried and hurt herself. She began quietly investigating Suman's background and the financial situation of Jiang Jinghong's company. She wrote, "I can't just fall like this. If I fall, what will happen to Chi-Chi? That woman and her child will be like vultures, devouring everything that should rightfully belong to my daughter. Jinghong has already been bewitched by that woman. The company will inevitably be hollowed out sooner or later. These 15% of shares are the last armor I leave for Chi-Chi. I've lived too tired, but I hope my daughter can live freely, boldly, and without being bullied by anyone." Tears fell drop by drop onto the diary, smudging the ink. I always thought my mother was weak, destroyed by love. It wasn't until this moment that I understood. She wasn't without resistance. She simply used all her remaining strength to pave a way out for me. She didn't fall, she built a fortress for me. I held the safe tightly, as if holding on to my mother's last warmth. The clarion call for counterattack was officially sounded at this moment. Just then, Grandpa's phone rang. It was a call from one of his students, saying there was an urgent legal document that needed his review. Half an hour later, a tall and elegant figure appeared at the door. "Teacher, I'm here." The person who arrived was Gu Yan, a second-year graduate student in the law school. the student council president, and also my grandfather's most accomplished student. Seeing me in the messy living room and the open safe beside me, he was slightly taken aback. My grandfather didn't avoid him and directly told him about my situation. After listening, Guyen adjusted the gold-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose, his gaze behind the lenses calm yet sharp. He looked at me, his tone gentle yet filled with strength. Junior Jiang, if you trust me, I can help you with this matter. Whether it's the legal process of equity inheritance or any disputes that may arise later, I can assist you. At that moment, I looked into his clear and resolute eyes, then glanced at my grandfather beside me, whose eyes were filled with concern. I knew I was not fighting alone. I didn't take a leave of absence, let alone transfer to another school. The next day, as if nothing had happened, I showed up in the classroom on time with my backpack. My appearance caused a small stir in the architecture department. Everyone looked at me with complicated expressions, whispering among themselves. Lin Weiwei didn't come to class. I heard she took sick leave, but she wasn't idle. Under Su Man's direction, she began playing the role of a pitiful illegitimate daughter bullied by a vicious legitimate wife in her social media circles and some small social groups. She posted some ambiguous, suggestive messages. I always thought blood ties were unbreakable, but I never imagined that some people's hatred runs deeper than anything else. I never wanted to take anything from anyone, I just wanted a little bit of a father's love too. Is that so wrong? The accompanying photo showed her receiving an 4 drip in the hospital, with gauze wrapped around her wrist, looking pitiful and vulnerable. For a time, more and more people began to sympathize with her. At school, I had almost become synonymous with scheming and malicious. Some extreme individuals even used correction fluid to write phrases like, "Get out, daughter of a mistress," on my desk. I wiped it off expressionlessly with a tissue. I didn't argue with them, nor did I try to explain. Because I know that reasoning with a group of people stirred by emotions is the most foolish thing in the world. What I need to do is not explain, but act. I found Guyen. "Senior Gu, I want to do an interview." Guyen immediately understood my intention. Using his connections as the student council president, he quickly helped me get in touch with the editor-in-chief of the school newspaper, a senior known for her in-depth reporting and sharp perspectives. The interview was scheduled at the school's cafe, facing the senior's probing gaze and the voice recorder. I didn't attack Lin Weiwei with a single word, nor did I cry about my grievances. I simply spoke calmly about my mother. I told her that my mother's name was Shen Qingshu, a talented painter who had won major international awards. I showed her the photos stored on my phone of my mother when she was young, along with pictures of her paintings. In the photos, my mother was smiling like a flower, her eyes and brows brimming with undeniable confidence and radiance. I recounted her life's achievements, her pursuit of art, and in the end, I simply glossed over her fate with the phrase she passed away early due to illness. "The reason I'm willing to do this interview today," I said, looking into my senior's eyes earnestly, "is not to clarify any rumors or gossip. It's because I don't want my mother, after her passing, to be defined by such meaningless labels as mistress or first wife. She was, first and foremost, herself, the painter Shen Qingshu. Only then was she my mother. What I hope people remember is her talent, not those unpleasant family disputes." At the end of the interview, I announced that I would establish an art fund in the name of my mother, Shen Qingshu. The initial funding for the foundation will come from the auction proceeds of my mother's paintings. In the future, it will be used to support talented but financially disadvantaged art students at our school, as well as across the country. My mother's greatest wish during her lifetime was for the light of art to illuminate the paths of more people. I will fulfill this wish on her behalf. This interview turned out to be surprisingly effective. The school newspaper published a full-page in-depth report titled "The Forgotten Genius Painter Shen Qingshu. Her brilliance should not be overshadowed by family feuds." The report included photos of my mother, her visually striking paintings, and my announcement of the decision to establish a foundation. This article quickly caused a sensation across the campus. For the first time, people learned that behind the vicious first wife was such a radiant mother. It turned out that she was not just a discarded daughter of a wealthy family who only knew how to fight for favor. She was doing something so meaningful and visionary. At the same time, I anonymously compiled a document and sent it to the email addresses of several influential campus influencers on campus. The document contained screenshots of Lin Weiwei flaunting her wealth on social media, Hermes bags, shoes worth tens of thousands, and the interior of a private jet. On the other side were screenshots of her chat records and social media posts where she played the role of a pitiful little white flower. The stark contrast between the tragic illegitimate daughter and the luxury-laden persona was filled with irony, complaining about not getting enough fatherly love while spending dad's money to travel the world. "You call that pitiful? Then what about me, with only $1,500 a month for living expenses? Should I go begging?" Got it, this is the new Versailles-style poor-mouthing. The direction of public opinion completely reversed almost overnight. People's looks towards me changed from contempt to admiration. As for Lin Weiwei, the look she received shifted from sympathy to mockery. She became the laughingstock of the entire school. I knew this was only the first step, Gu Yan reminded me. Su Men climbed from an ordinary assistant to her current position. Her methods are definitely not simple. You turned the public opinion around, so she will surely have a follow-up move. You must be very careful. I nodded. I know. I started using my spare time, under Gu Yan's guidance, to study the publicly available financial reports of the Jiang Group. Then, I discovered an interesting detail. The Jia Gallery under Su Man's name has frequently hosted various annual meetings, client appreciation events, and art appreciation activities for the Jiang Group over the past 5 years. Moreover, the contract amounts for each event have been unreasonably high. How did a small gallery manage to secure so many orders from such a large corporation? Could it really be as simple as Su Man being Jiang Jinghong's close confidant? My intuition tells me there must be something fishy going on here. My 20th birthday arrived amidst an eerie calm. This day also marked the official activation of the equity agreement left by my mother, early in the morning. I went to the law firm and completed all the inheritance procedures with Gu Yan and my grandfather by my side. When I received that weighty equity document, I felt no joy in my heart, only a heaviness that carried my mother's final wishes. To my surprise, Jiang Jinghong actually called me. His voice sounded weary, but with a hint of deliberate flattery. Chi, happy birthday. Dad has prepared a birthday party for you tonight, hoping to celebrate it properly for you. He said he had already invited all the classmates, teachers, and even some business partners who knew me from school, hoping to use this opportunity to formally introduce me to everyone. It sounded like a belated compensation. I sneered inwardly but still agreed. Great, I wanted to see what tricks he was up to this time. The birthday banquet was held at the most luxurious 5-star hotel in the city center. Jiang Jinghong certainly spared no expense. The entire banquet hall was brilliantly decorated, filled with celebrities, and the clinking of glasses echoed throughout. He held my hand and introduced me to his business friends. This is my daughter, Jiang Qi. She just got into the architecture department at a university. She's very smart, just like her mother. He wore a proud smile on his face, as if all the previous unpleasantness had never happened. As if he had always been the doting father who took pride in me. People around cast envious glances and offered flattering words. Mr. Jiang is truly blessed to have such a beautiful and outstanding daughter. Miss Jiang truly embodies the grace of a lady from a distinguished family. I was dressed in an elegant white gown, wearing a distant yet polite smile. Playing along with his performance, grandfather and Gu Yan had also arrived, sitting in a corner not far away, watching me with concern. I gave them a reassuring look. Halfway through the banquet, it was time to cut the cake. A massive 3-tiered cake was wheeled out. The lights in the hall dimmed, leaving only the flickering candlelight dancing on my face. Jiang Jinghong stood beside me, picked up the microphone, cleared his throat, and seemed ready to deliver a heartfelt speech about the deep bond between father and daughter. Just then, the doors of the banquet hall were pushed open. Su Man attended with Lin Weiwei, both dressed in their finest. Su Man wore a wine-red velvet gown, adorned with jewels, her face graced by a flawless, gentle smile. Lin Weiwei, on the other hand, was dressed in a pink princess gown, though a hint of reluctance still lingered on her face. It was clear she had been meticulously groomed. The most glaring detail was the diamond bracelet adorning her wrist. That bracelet is exactly the same as the one in the photo among my mother's belongings, the one she loved the most. It was the first expensive gift Jiang Jinghong gave to my mother. Now, it's worn on the hand of the illegitimate daughter. The entire room fell silent instantly, with everyone's eyes darting back and forth among the few of us. Jiang Jinghong's expression stiffened for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. He showed no trace of embarrassment. Instead, he smiled and waved to them. Su Man, Weiwei, you're here. He handed the microphone to Su Man, who took it with a graceful smile and addressed the guests. Sorry for being late. Today is also our Chi-Chi's birthday. As family, Weiwei and I have come to celebrate with her. The words family members were spoken with particular clarity. Then, she pulled Lin Weiwei in front of her and announced with loving eyes, taking advantage of today's auspicious occasion, I also want to announce something to everyone. Starting next week, our Weiwei will officially begin an internship at Jiang Group, starting from the grassroots level. I hope all the uncles and elders present here will look out for her in the future. Jiang Jinghong stood to the side without refuting. His silence was a tacit agreement. He tacitly acknowledged Su Man's status as the mistress of the house, affirmed Lin Weiwei's position as the second young lady, and even granted her access to the company's core operations. After doing all this, he turned to me and, in a tone that brooked no argument, said in front of everyone, Chi, you see, Weiwei has grown up and wants to contribute to the family, as her older sister. You should guide her more in the company from now on. In that moment, All the noise of the world seemed to fade away. I could only hear the sound of my own heart growing colder inch by inch. Humiliation. This was the most blatant humiliation and coercion, right in front of everyone. At my 20th birthday banquet, he was using this method to force me to accept his mistress, to force me to acknowledge this illegitimate half-sister, to force me to give away half of everything that should rightfully be mine. The last shred of fantasy I held for this man was completely shattered at this moment. I looked at him, at his face that seemed full of paternal love but was actually selfish to the extreme. After a long while, I smiled. I picked up a glass of champagne from the nearby table and raised it toward him. "Thank you for the birthday gift, Dad. I'll gladly accept this grand present." My smile was radiant, my voice clear and crisp. Yet the warmth in that smile was so chillingly absent that even Jiang Jinghong couldn't help but shiver. The day after the birthday celebration was the annual shareholders meeting of the Jiang Group. Jiang Jinghong probably thought that last night's show of authority was enough to make me recognize reality and obediently become a young lady who only collects dividends and stays out of worldly affairs. In the conference room, he sat confidently in the main seat, delivering the previous year's summary report and outlining future strategic prospects. Su Man and Lin Weiwei, one as a family member and the other as an intern about to join the company, were exceptionally seated in the audience. Su Man wore a triumphant smile on her face, her gaze toward Jiang Jinghong filled with admiration and adoration. Lin Weiwei felt a bit restless, but more than that, she was filled with anticipation and excitement about entering the core of this business empire in the future. The atmosphere in the entire conference room was harmonious and peaceful. It wasn't until Jiang Jinghong's report concluded and the discussion moved to several major investment proposals for the company's future that the heavy double doors of the conference room were pushed open from the outside. I walked in wearing a sleek black suit and high heels, accompanied by my attorney Nguyen. All eyes instantly focused on me. Jiang Jinghong's brows furrowed sharply as he scolded with displeasure. "Chi-Chi, what are you doing here? This is a shareholders' meeting. You can't just make a scene anywhere." Su Man immediately put on a concerned expression and said, "Yes, Chi-Chi, we're discussing business matters here. Come sit with us in the back." I paid them no mind. I walked straight to the long conference table and, with a sharp thud, placed the notarized equity inheritance document in my hand onto the tabletop. "Sorry to interrupt." My voice was calm, echoing through the empty conference room. "Let me introduce myself, Jiang Qi. Starting today, as the legal heir to 15% of the Jiang Group's shares, I am the company's second largest shareholder. Therefore, I have different views on the investment proposals Mr. Jiang just presented." The entire room was stunned. All the directors and executives were whispering to each other, looking at me with a completely new, scrutinizing gaze. Jiang Jinghong's face instantly turned deathly pale. He stared fixedly at the document, his lips trembling as if he wanted to say something, but not a single word came out. He never could have imagined that my mother had left such a trump card. He thought I was just a daughter he could manipulate at will, but little did he know I would transform into a major shareholder capable of standing toe-to-toe with him. He finally found his voice again, but the confidence from earlier was gone. "What are your thoughts?" "I oppose the proposal Mr. Jiang just made, to invest $3 billion in a new energy project in South America." I opened the laptop I had brought with me and projected a pre-prepared PowerPoint presentation onto the large screen. "Based on my investigation over the past few weeks, the country where the project is located has an unstable political situation, posing significant policy risks. Secondly, the core technology of the project is held by our partner, and the financial condition of their company is concerning, with the possibility of bankruptcy and liquidation. Most importantly, the Jiang Group's main business currently lies in real estate and finance. Venturing rashly into an entirely unfamiliar field and investing such a massive amount of capital could, if it fails, directly shake the foundation of the company." The data I cited was detailed and accurate. My logic was clear, and my analysis was thorough, even more in-depth than the company's internal due diligence report. Several of the senior shareholders present, who had originally followed Jiang Jinghong in building the company, now looked at me with appreciation and approval, their initial astonishment having faded. Jiang Jinghong's expression grew increasingly grim. This report, which he insisted on pushing through despite opposition, was a crucial step in showcasing his ambition. Now it has been publicly torn to shreds by me, his 20-year-old daughter. Next, I presented my proposal. I proposed that we use these funds to acquire a small but technologically advanced AI architectural design company currently on the market, integrating it with our existing real estate business to achieve industrial upgrading. The detailed feasibility report has already been sent to the email addresses of all board members. Before Jiang Jinghong could refute, I continued, "Additionally, According to the company's bylaws, shareholders holding more than 10% of the shares have the right to nominate a board member. Here, I formally nominate the retired entrepreneur, Mr. Fang Dishing, to join the board of directors of Jiang Group. Fang Dishing is an old friend of my grandfather and a highly respected senior in the business world, known for his sharp insight and steady approach. Having him join the board is equivalent to placing the most reliable informant and ally, Jiang Qi. Jiang Jinghong finally couldn't hold back any longer, slamming the table as he stood up abruptly. What exactly are you trying to do? We are father and daughter. He wants to use family ties to pressure me. I raised my eyes and met his gaze coldly. Business is business, President Jiang. Right now, this is a shareholders' meeting. Su Man in the spectator seats had long since turned pale, and she couldn't help but speak up. Chi. How can you talk to your father like that? I shot her a cold glance, cutting her off directly. This is the board meeting. Spectators have no right to speak. That day, in our first confrontation, I emerged with a complete victory. The project in South America has been put on hold, and Mr. Fang's nomination has also received approval from more than half of the board members. I have successfully torn a crack in the iron curtain of power that Jiang Jinghong has held so tightly. As I walked out of the meeting room, I saw Su Man supporting the unsteady Jiang Jinghong, while Lin Weiwei looked at me as if I were a monster, her eyes filled with fear and unfamiliarity. I did not let my guard down because of this first victory. I knew this was only the beginning. To completely bring down Su Man, we must find direct evidence of her economic crimes. I told Guyan about my suspicions, using his professional knowledge and connections. He quickly obtained some internal accounts from an intern in the finance department of Jiangshi Group. The accounts showed that there were indeed a large number of related party transactions in the collaboration between Jia Gallery and Jiangshi Group. Many art leasing and curation services that never actually occurred were fabricated into contracts, with substantial funds flowing from the Jiang Group to Su Man's personal gallery through this method. This is suspected of using related party transactions to transfer company assets, constituting a serious act of occupational embezzlement. However, these accounts are one-sided, lacking the internal ledgers and transfer records from Su Man's gallery, making it impossible to form a complete chain of evidence. To obtain these, an insider would be necessary, and the best candidate for them all is Lin Weiwei. I know that dealing with someone like Lin Weiwei, a spoiled young lady who is also desperate to prove herself, won't work by confronting her head-on. I must target her heart. I had Guyan deliberately leak a document to Lin Weiwei's department through that intern. It was a proposal about the Jiang Group's plan to establish a branch in Europe. In the proposal, the position of the branch's head was described in the most glowing terms. With immense decision-making power and an astonishing annual salary. Then, during a family dinner, which Jiang Jinghong had forced to organize in an attempt to ease tensions, I casually brought up the matter. I heard Dad is planning to send Weiwei to Europe for some experience. That's great. Young people should definitely go out and explore more. Lin Weiwei's eyes instantly lit up. Being able to independently manage a branch company was the best opportunity for her to prove her capabilities to everyone. Jiang Jinghong was clearly moved as well, thinking this was a great way to keep Lin Weiwei away from domestic conflicts while also giving her a chance to grow. Only Su Man's expression changed. She immediately objected. Weiwei is still young. How could I feel at ease letting her go so far away alone? Besides, she's been doing just fine with her internship here at home. There's no need to take such a risk. Of course, she wasn't at ease. She kept Lin Weiwei by her side to use her as a pawn to tie down Jiang Jinghong and solidify her own position. Once Lin Weiwei flew far away and escaped her control, her value would be greatly diminished. This time, Lin Weiwei did not listen to her mother as she had before. For the first time, she publicly refuted Su Man. Mom, I'm not a child anymore. Why can't I go? My sister can attend the shareholders' meeting. So why am I only allowed to be an intern by your side? The mother and daughter had their first intense argument. Looking at Lin Weiwei's face, filled with longing and resentment, I knew the time had come. A few days later, I privately arranged to meet Lin Weiwei by the lake at the school. When she arrived, her face was full of vigilance and hostility. I didn't mention the company or criticize her for what she had done before. I simply pulled up a photo on my phone and handed it to her. In the photo was my mother in her youth, standing in front of an easel, turning back with a smile. The sunlight fell on her, making her whole being glow. Her name is Shinqingshu, my mother, I said softly. She was also your father's legal and deeply beloved wife. I selected a portion of my mother's diary and handed it to her to read. Those words held no resentment, only a mother's deepest love for her daughter and a sense of helplessness over a lost relationship. Lin Weiwei, you were never the original sin. You couldn't choose your birth. But your mother was. She used your ignorance, your longing for a father's love, to turn you into a knife to hurt me, a tool to seize benefits for herself. Are you really willing to be her puppet for the rest of your life? She tells you to play the innocent flower at school, and you do. She tells you to be a spy in the company, and you do. Now, to keep you by her side, she's willing to clip your wings. Finally, I placed a piece of evidence in front of her. It was what I had found through a private investigator, how Su Man, over the years, had pretended to be not after money in front of Jiang Jinghong while secretly encouraging Lin Weiwei to flaunt her wealth in various ways. She then used Lin Weiwei's extravagant lifestyle to provoke Jiang Jinghong, making him feel guilty for letting them down and willingly footing the bill for them. She doesn't love your father, nor does she love you. She only loves herself and the benefits you bring her. Take a good look. The luxurious life you're so proud of is nothing but a bargaining chip she uses to extract more benefits from my dad. Lin Weiwei stared at the evidence, at the despicable schemes and mockery in the chat records between Su Man and her best friend. Her entire worldview crumbled completely in that moment. Her whole body trembled, her face as pale as paper, and she muttered to herself, "No, it can't be. Mom isn't that kind of person." I didn't say another word. The seed has been planted, all that's left is to wait for it to sprout on its own. Lin Weiwei struggled in conflict and pain for several days. She began secretly observing Su Man, watching how she acted tenderly and affectionately toward Jiang Jinghong on the phone, only to hang up and complain to her mahjong friends with a look of disdain, saying Jiang Jinghong was old and useless. She finally discovered that every expensive bag and piece of jewelry Su Man had given her came with an invoice. And these invoices, under various pretexts, eventually appeared on Jiang Group's expense reports. The last straw that broke the camel's back was when she accidentally saw Su Man's computer. Su Man had forgotten to lock it. Lin Weiwei, with a nearly self-destructive mindset, clicked open those encrypted folders, and then, she saw hell. Inside were all the email exchanges between Su Man and the financial director of the Jiang Group. Colluding to cook the books and transfer assets using overseas shell companies, she also discovered that Su Man was quietly transferring the large assets Jiang Jinghong had gradually given her over the years to an overseas account she had already set up, using underground banks. She even had a complete plan to flee with her lover, a fitness trainer 10 years her junior, after siphoning off part of the company's assets, completely sidelining and abandoning Jiang Jinghong, deep within the folder. Lin Weiwei also found a subfolder named Souvenirs. Upon opening it, there were countless indecent photos. All of them were intimate photos of Su Man and Jiang Jinghong in various hotels and offices from back then. There were also some email sending records. The recipient was my mother Shunshu's private email address. The sending times all coincided with the period when my mother's depression was at its worst. The emails contained no text, only these photos. Lin Weiwei finally understood. All that talk about being crazy in love, about being helplessly drawn to someone, it was all a lie. This woman, from start to finish, has been a scheming executioner. She not only wants money, she also wants to crush the spirit. She intends to use this cruelest method to drive my mother to her death. At that moment, Lin Weiwei finally saw the light. With tears in her eyes and trembling hands, she copied all the evidence from the computer into a USB drive and then handed it to me. "I'm sorry." Those were the only words she said as she passed me the USB drive, her voice hoarse and choked with sobs. "Jiangqi, I'm sorry. I'm saying sorry on behalf of my mom." Holding that small USB drive, I felt as though it weighed 1,000 pounds. I compiled all the evidence, including the details from my mother's diary about how her condition worsened after receiving the anonymous photos back then. A complete, malicious conspiracy unfolded clearly before my eyes. The stage for revenge has been set by me. The location I chose was the year-end bidding meeting for the most important project of the Jiang Group. That day, almost all partners and mainstream financial media were present. As the group president, Jiang Jinghong was on stage, confidently presenting the blueprint of the project. Su Man, as both a family member and an art consultant, also sat in the front row, basking in the envious gazes of the crowd. Just as the atmosphere in the room reached its peak, I walked onto the stage. "Sorry, Mr. Jiang, before you introduce this $5 billion project, I would like to invite all the guests and media friends to take a look at something first." Under the astonished gazes of everyone, I inserted the USB drive into the computer. On the massive projection screen, Su Man's evidence of wrongdoing instantly appeared. Clear transaction records, forged contracts, and emails of her secret plots with the financial director and her lover, all laid out one by one. The entire room erupted in an uproar. "Is that President Jiang's wife? Oh my God, this is transferring company assets." Jiang Jinghong was as if struck by lightning, staring at the screen in disbelief, then looking at me, his whole body trembling. "Jiangqi, have you lost your mind?" Su Man was so terrified that her soul seemed to flee her body. She screamed and rushed forward. trying to pull out the USB drive. It's fake, it's all fake, she forged it, she framed me. I looked at her coldly. Don't rush, Miss Sue, the best is yet to come. I pressed the play button. On the screen, those indecent photos she had sent to my mother back then began to play. I also hired a voice imitation expert to recite the vicious insults she anonymously hurled at my mother over the phone back then. Shinchingshu, you're just an old woman hogging the toilet without doing anything. Jinghong loves me, why don't you just die? Do you think he'll feel sorry for you if you pretend to be sick? He'll only find you disgusting. I looked at Jiang Jinghong, whose face had already turned ashen, and said word by word, Jiang Jinghong, you've always believed that my mother died of depression. You've always thought that Su Man was innocent, deeply affectionate, and simply fell in love with you at the wrong time. Now, do you see? She is the true murderer who pushed my mother step by step into the abyss of death. It was you who let the wolf in through the door. It was you who handed the knife to the one who killed your wife. Jiang Jinghong's legs gave way, and he completely collapsed to the ground. As for Su Man, upon seeing the police waiting at the door, she had no idea how long they had been there. She finally broke down completely. She screamed hysterically, like a madwoman, and was taken away on the spot. Camera flashes went wild at that moment. They captured the most wretched and ugliest conclusion to this high society drama. Su Man has been officially placed under investigation for multiple charges including embezzlement, money laundering, and intentional injury, indirectly causing the death of another person. What awaits her is a lengthy prison sentence. The stock price of Jiang Group plummeted overnight, losing nearly 10 billion in market value, plunging the company into an unprecedented crisis. Major partners have successively requested contract terminations, and banks have begun demanding loan repayments. Once an invincible business empire, it now teeters on the brink of collapse. Jiang Jinghong's hair turned white overnight. When he came to me, he seemed drained of all vitality, looking 20 years older. In front of me, this once arrogant man wept bitterly, slapping his own face. Chi-chi. It was Dad's fault. I was blind. I'm sorry to you, and even more so to your mother. Please help Dad, help the company. Okay, this is your mother's hard work. You can't just watch it fall apart. He knelt on the ground, clutching my legs, pleading desperately. I looked at him, feeling no ripple of emotion in my heart, no joy of revenge, no sympathy. I just feel very calm. I will help you, I said, my voice very faint. But not for you, for my mother. This is what she left me, and I won't let it be destroyed by anyone, including you. But, Jiang Jinghong, I told him clearly, word by word, you and we can't go back. I accepted the equity transfer agreement he proactively offered, purchasing all the shares in his hands at a symbolic price. I became the new, absolute controlling majority shareholder of the Jiang Group, together with Mr. Fang Dishing and other board members who saw the situation clearly. I began implementing sweeping reforms within the company. We eliminated redundant departments, removed all of Su Man and Jiang Jinghong's confidants, and brought in new management teams and technical talent. Those were extremely difficult days. I practically lived at the office, sleeping only 3 or 4 hours each day. Lin Weiwei came to see me once. She had compiled a list of all the properties, jewelry, and cash that Su Man had given her over the years and wanted to hand it all over to me. This is my way of atoning for her sins, she said, keeping her head down and not daring to look at me. I have already applied to a school abroad and plan to go study there. From now on, I'll rely on myself to make a living. I did not accept her assets. You are not guilty. I simply looked at her. The path is your own. Walk it well. She left, resolutely. Half a year later, under my leadership, the Jiang Group miraculously overcame the crisis and, through a successful industrial transformation, regained market recognition. Jiang Jinghong was completely sidelined, becoming a nominal board member who only received dividends. He did not remarry, nor did he seek out any other women. He lived alone in that empty mansion, spending each day in endless regret and self-torment. I knew that for him, this was a punishment far more cruel than having nothing at all. 1 year later, the new headquarters building of Jiang Group was completed. The design of the building, integrating the latest AI technology and green building concepts, became a new landmark in the city center, and the chief designer of this building was me. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, I stood on the stage, looking at the familiar and unfamiliar faces in the audience, feeling completely at ease. The Qingshu Art Fund, which I established in my mother's name, has successfully funded the first group of talented young artists, some of whom are also present here today. I saw them in the audience, applauding for me, their eyes sparkling with light. At that moment, I felt my mother in heaven was also smiling down at me. I fulfilled her last wish and have also become my own son. Guyan has always been by my side. He went from being my legal advisor to becoming the head of the legal department at Jiang Group, and he is also my most capable right-hand man and my strongest support. We have shared the same cup of coffee during countless late nights of overtime. We have also shared the first ray of sunlight on countless mornings after successful projects. Feelings, when the time is right, will naturally fall into place. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, on the rooftop terrace, he held a simply designed ring and knelt on one knee. "President Jiang, would you give me a chance to become official?" He proposed to me in this way. I smiled and reached out my hand to him. Occasionally, I still receive postcards from Lin Weiwei sent from abroad. On them are photos of her waiting tables at a restaurant, dozing off in the library, and skiing in the Alps. She no longer used those luxury brands, but her smile was brighter and more genuine than ever before. I knew she was striving to live her own life. I stood before the architectural work I had designed myself, with sunlight filtering through the glass curtain wall, casting warm patches of light on me. I named this building Qi, Work and Rest, the way of civil and military affairs. It also represents myself. I am no longer someone's daughter, no longer carrying anyone's expectations or hatred. I am Jiang Qi. On the day I moved into my new home, while sorting through some old items my grandfather had given me, I unexpectedly discovered an old envelope tucked inside a photo album. The envelope had yellowed, and the stamp on it had faded. It was a letter written by Jiang Jinghong to my mother, but it had never been sent, judging by the handwriting and content. It was likely written shortly after he and Suman got together. In the letter, he made no attempt to justify his betrayal. Every word was filled with pain, struggle, and self-loathing. He wrote that he deeply loved his wife Shin Qingshu for her talent, purity, and beauty, yet, at the same time, he found himself irresistibly drawn to Suman's passionate, worldly, and down-to-earth affection. He was like a man walking a tightrope, with abysses on both sides. Yet he was too cowardly to let go of either. At the end of the letter, he wrote, "Qingshu, perhaps I was wrong from the very beginning, wrong in not having the courage to end it with my own hands the moment the mistake began. I thought I could control everything, but in the end, I was controlled by desire, hurting everyone I loved and everyone who loved me. I am sorry to you." After reading the letter, I remained silent for a long time. Then, I placed it together with my mother's sketches, carefully sealed them in a box. The love, hate, grudges, and rights and wrongs of the previous generation have all become unchangeable past events. Just like this letter, the living must ultimately let go of the past and look forward. Outside the window, the city's brilliant lights shimmered. And my future, like these lights, is bright, clear, and filled with endless possibilities. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.